Hi, I'm Nut, and this is 10 cars from the 90s you've never heard of. I'm gonna get straight into it, but first I'd like you to do me a solid. Hit that bell, ring that notification thingy what, and like this video before you've watched it. At 10, the Ford Mondeo. It was like a Euro sedan. There was a flop in Europe and America, and okay, that's number 10, the Ford Mondeo. Number 9, the Lotus Elan, so called because the engine, the 4-cylinder engine, was half of the engine of an Eleanor, like a real American muscle car. Number 9, the Lotus Elan, half an Eleanor. And at number 8, it's the Vauxhall Vectra, another Euro sedan. 7, Paul, he's still moving. Give us that brick. Mate, that is such a politically lauded statement that I think we should make sure that we do not broadcast or disseminate in any way, shape or form any of the things that you just referred to. And instead, what we should talk about is this 1999 Ford Mondeo Mark II 2.5 litre V6 front wheel drive, 170 brake horsepower, 8 seconds from 0 to 60 mph and 140 miles an hour top speed car.
You crammed in all the information there just to make sure in case you go off track a bit.
Just in case I go off track?
Yeah, in case you forget to mention any of that.
Well, you know I won't do that.
No. 176 brake horsepower, by the way.
167, I think you'll find, my hairy Wookiee friend. 167.
176.
Okay. 24 valve, I'm right, he's wrong. 24 valve V6. This engine was also in the Cougar.
Yeah.
Which I think came out the year that this...
97?
I think 99, the Cougar. So there was the ST200 and the ST220. And they were called that because... Go on, Paul.
Of their expected power output.
Expected power output, that's a good one. Did you know that the Triumph Dolomite Sprint's original name was the Triumph Dolomite 130?
Well, shouldn't it have been 127?
That's the... No, Fiat already had that name. No, they couldn't get anywhere near 130 brake horsepower out of the engine, which is what they thought they were going to have and they were going to boast about. So they had to call it something else very quickly. I met the bloke who runs like the Triumph Dolomite Sprint register, and he had the original badging, and he had it like in a special case, like behind glass, as though it was like antiquities from ancient Greece or Egypt or something like that. But it was just the original badges that were meant to be on the Triumph Dolomite Sprint. So this thing was called, my point being...
Yep, go on.
This was called the ST24Y. The one was called the 200 because it had 200 horsepower. One was called the 220 because it had 220 brake horsepower. This was called the ST24Y, Paul. Why?
Because of 24 valves.
Valves in its V6 2.5 litre engine.
Yeah. And it sounds better than ST176.
Didn't they have a car called the STI at one point on this example? The owner has all kinds of cars from this period, as well as access to some of the greatest cars ever made within these British Isles, wouldn't you say, Paul?
Oh yeah.
From marques like Jaguar and indeed Aston Martin, when Aston Martin was Aston Martin. You know, like when they made cars for James Bond and people like that. Has this car got a boot, or is it hatchback? It's booted, isn't it?
Boot, yeah.
It's a saloon car. Or as our Americans friends would say,
a sedan.
A sedan, yeah. Now, how rare is that now? A booted 4-door car? Really?
Well, the Germans still do, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah. You can still buy a 3 Series, can't you?
BMW have completely lost me along the way. For a long time, I could identify the entire BMW model range, and I could tell you how big they were and what sort of engine they had and everything. There was a distinct BMW family Now, they seem to build a bewildering myriad of cars of all kinds of shapes and sizes and configurations.
I am with you there, because they kind of look a bit like bigger and smaller versions of the same thing, with different, or with varying heights.
1999. Was that Sex Crimes? Oh no, that was 1984, wasn't it? Sex Crime.
I'm not going to pretend to know what you're talking about.
You're not a sex criminal, are you?
No.
Good.
Strange question.
Well, I've worked with them before. Very nice interior, which is quintessentially. Why do people say quintessentially, Paul, when it's quintessentially?
Well, extra syllables help you spell.
Extra syllables help people to spell.
Yeah.
I'm sure that makes sense on a planet somewhere, but not this one.
Do you have any words that you pronounce differently sometimes, just to help you remember how to spell them?
Chimley, Skellington,
Yeah.
Definitely. Try spelling definitely, it's not easy.
It is.
Can we get back to the car?
Can you get back to the car? You keep wandering off.
I really like this car. It's only got 170 brake horsepower, but it's got a manual gearbox and it's got really positive front wheel drive handling. This is the era, is it not, of Richard Parry Jones, who's become, since he passed, has become more famous really than he was when he was alive. And people have recognised the contribution that he made in the 1990s to making Ford cars much better to drive than they had any right to be, really.
Much better than the Sierra.
Well, if I had a Sierra here, I'd be able to tell you. I have seen and heard enough people on the internet talking about making comparisons between this car and the car that preceded it, the Ford Sierra, and I don't think they've driven Sierras, at least not like we've driven them. Well, I've driven a lot of Sierras, and I would imagine you have, Paul.
Oh yeah? Well, I've even owned a few.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about Sierras, because if we do...
Well, we should talk about the Cortina and the Sierra, because...
All right, let's do that.
That places the Mondeo in its position in
where Ford caught up somewhat with the way cars started to drive.
Well, I think the Cortina was a fantastic car.
Yeah.
I do, yeah. Especially the Mark 1, they were great. And the Mark 3, they were fab as well. Well, they were all good. As a family car, I think the Ford Cortina was just about unbeatable in its time in terms of pricing, availability, reliability. Yes, they rusted like Billy O, but everything did. I restored a Mercedes S-Class from the early 70s, and when we took it apart, it was as rotten as anything made in Italy in that period. It was shocking. So yeah, the Cortina was a great car. British people took it to their hearts. They bought them. You could get a posh one, you could get a sporty one, you could get a 1600E, you could get a Lotus Cortina. Or was it a Cortina Lotus?
It was a Lotus Cortina.
All right, so was it Sierra Cosworth or a Cosworth Sierra?
Well, yeah, good point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to the gentleman that has allowed us to kindly borrow it and subject it to the intense scrutiny that we bring to cars here on Big in the 90s. In other words, we just sit here and talk absolute bollocks for about 45 minutes.
And we try and talk about the car that we're in a little bit.
We try. I try. We're going to have to put the window down. Because one thing that's not working on this car is the blower for the aircon.
I wasn't a fan of the Cortina.
Why not?
Or the Sierra.
Go on, why not?
But just from experience and having them.
So you
found them to be...
So did you prefer a Vauxhall Cavalier?
Yeah.
Why? So when the ST220 came out, the Mondeo ST220, I went on the launch, which is in the south of France, and we went through those tunnels that are on the course road. We went along the course road, and the bloke from Ford travelled with me. What you used to do when you went on these car launches in exotic places, you usually had to pal up with some dweeb that you'd never met before from watt diesel monthly or something. Well, most of them were. They were sort of man at CNA types with a notebook. You know what I mean?
Well, I do know what you mean, yeah.
The bloke from the sort of people that are now on the internet talking about cars. Hello, welcome back to the channel. Them lot, right?
Yeah.
So the fella from Ford palled up with me, and he said, "Come on, Stevie, give it what for?" And I thought, oh, here we go. So I thought, the guy from Ford has just told me to drive fast in this car, and we went absolutely flying down that course road. Loved it, but I don't think I would have wanted to buy one. Do you know what I mean? So I can appreciate this car. I get in and think, yeah, the Mark II with the improved interior is a much nicer space to be in. I really love this interior design. It's unshowy, isn't it, Paul? It's functional. I like that.
It is. I think you're right, but it's kind of a bit bland.
Yeah, but I think what it's not doing, right, okay. If you got in a Day, I'll give you the most extreme example. If you got a Daewoo or a Sangyong in this era, it'd be like loads of fake wood all over the place and randomly placed switches and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, not thought out. It is thought out.
This is beautifully thought out, and it's rendered in an intuitive way. Oh, where is that switch that I need? Oh, it's there. It's right there where I need it. And there's no fake carbon fibre. There's no sort of, look how sporty we are. You know, we haven't got red stitched gear knob covers or anything like that, have we? It's all quite plain. It's all quite straightforward. And as I say, I hate it when people do that. It means that they've sort of lost the train of thought, doesn't it, Paul?
It means you're about to repeat yourself.
Well, I'm trying to drive a car which hasn't got a working blower, so it's rapidly steaming up, and I can't see out the damn thing. Quite a bit of tyre noise, isn't there?
Well, it's an uneven road, and the tyres are quite wide. So let's forgive it for that.
It drives well.
I had a Mark II diesel, 2 litre. It was really punchy. And I agree with what you said about the interior. Much better interior. But do you know what? I got bored with it really quickly. That's the thing. It drove nicely. It ticked every box except for that one box which was never specified that says, do you really like it? They didn't know about that box.
You're getting off into an area of vagueness where I can't follow you, mate. I cannot sanction your non-specific comments, which are completely subjective and lack the rigour and the journalistic sort of insight which I attempt to bring to these videos.
Do you know?
You're just going, I just didn't like it.
No, I didn't like it.
I just didn't like it.
I did like it. I did like it.
Was it a good car? Yes,
Yeah.
you just told me that.
It was a good car, yeah.
Was it a nice place to have to spend time?
No.
Was it economical? Did
Yeah.
it drive well?
Yeah,
Was it reliable?
yeah.
Was there good spares availability?
Don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? Because
Well,
it never
needed
broke
it.
down. Well, that's good, isn't
I
it?
only had it for 2
The
weeks.
fact that 2 months, that changes
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
Wow, you got so bored with it within 2 weeks that you wanted to get rid of it.
yeah. You do know about this thing. Are you bored with the MGF?
No.
Right.
No, there are all kinds of problems with the MGF that I'm driving around in at the moment, but I'm not bored with it.
Right.
It has character.
That's
Does
the
this car have character, Paul?
No.
Does that sound like a V6 to you?
Yeah.
Does it?
What does it sound like to you?
It sounds like quiet.
But yeah,
and
it's
like
muted.
You can't muted. Yes, very good, Paul. True. Oh, here we go.
Humpback Bridge.
A humpback bridge. Let's see if the horn works. Yes,
Yep. That's the thing you're supposed to do.
it is. I did it after I was supposed to do it, which is something that my ex-wife. No, don't go there. We'll have no banter. Do you know what it reminds me of? That X-Type Jag that I had, and I can't. Well, and I would imagine that that's because it's
Good reason, isn't it?
kind of the same car, isn't it?
It's the same chassis. Or is it?
The CD20W27.
Is it the same chassis?
It's similar. I think people who say that the X-Type Jag was just a Mondeo in a party frock are
copying each other.
Yeah, they're just saying it. Like, I heard some bloke, what was he talking about? He was talking about what a disaster the TR7 was. And that's because he's heard Mr. Jeffrey Carlson say it. And it's not true. The TR7 may not be to people's tastes now, but at the time it was a popular car and became the best-selling of all those two-door Triumph sports cars. So quite how it now, then, it's only talked about like that now because Clarkson didn't like it. Didn't like it in red. Same with the Allegro, mate, isn't it? Oh, the Allegro, one of the worst cars ever made. Oh, well, no, not true. And at the time, it got great reviews from proper car magazines.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of that, isn't there?
People bought it.
The journalists
the Marina,
at the time, yeah,
the Marina. They sold 1.5 million Marinas. Oh, worst car ever made.
Unpopular to like it, so they stopped liking it.
So is this a car?
Yeah.
I really like the interior. I really like the exterior. I love these seats. I like the way this car drives. The V6 engine with only 167 because the Wookiee's here and he's particular about these sort of things.
176.
It's 167. Look at the quality German made. See, there's the thing. We're in a nice part of Lancashire where the lovely houses are expensive to buy and it's expensive to live. And where were the cars that are parked outside that very pretty pub made, Paul?
Germany.
Yeah,
and that pub would look so much nicer with a brace of Triumphs outside.
A couple of Triumphs, motorcycles or cars?
Cars.
One of each. What about one of each?
Well, yeah.
A TR4A and a 1958 Bonneville or a Speed Twin.
Well, even a
Amaranth
Dolomite.
Red. A Dolomite?
Yeah, even a Dolomite in Inca Yellow.
I want to go down back lane, if you'll pardon the expression. Hi there, music lover. You're maybe like me, the sort of person who likes their music to go round and round. The sort of person who might spend £45 on a reissue of an album by the third most talented member of the Velvet Underground. Well, vinyl lovers, worry no more about dirt, detritus and dust because the Ronco record vacuum is here. Simply switch on the Ronco record vacuum. Give it a good old vacuuming. And Ronco guarantee no dust, no dirt, and no detritus. The Ronco record value. The Ronco record vacuum. Now back to the car. This is right at the end of the greatest decade, 1999. As the Eurythmics said in that song, when everyone was committing sex crimes. Go on, correct me.
No.
Do you remember on the Brits when they'd go, if somebody put a gun at your head when you were watching the Brit Awards and it was being presented by like Mick Fleetwood from the Fleetwood Macs and like Samantha Breasts or what? Yeah, it was like Samantha Breasts, right? And they'd go, and now the award for Best British Female. And if you're in a room and somebody was pointing like a revolver at you and they said, go on, what's the shortlist? Go on, what's the shortlist? You would have gone, Annie Lennox, Kate Bush and Alison Moyet. And it would have been them three, wouldn't it? Yeah. It was always the same three people. I like it here, it's great. Let's move here.
What do you mean, let's move here?
Well, it's lovely, and the people are nice. The roads are muddy. It's all on my shoes, all this mud. That was my favourite line by one of my favourite writers, A.A. Gill. Adrian, as I knew him, I met him 3 times. He said, I like the countryside, but it makes your shoes dirty. He was right, wasn't he? Yeah, it is nice, but it does make your shoes dirty.
What size is that chicken?
What? That's a big cock. in 1999, and Ford Mondeo 2.5 litre ST24 with a manual gearbox, air conditioning, and very nice leather seats. I love these seats.
And have you got someone in mind?
I'm asking you, mate.
Oh, right. Well, I was going to say Harold Shipman.
Harold Shipman had a Renault Espace TXE in red.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So why on earth, why would you say that?
Well, that's when I thought about it this morning. My first thought was Harold Shipman, and I had a quick look, and he famously drove a Renault.
Red Renault TXE.
Yeah.
Espace.
And because of that, I'm going to go for Fred West.
I liked it when you just used to say Simon Pegg to anything I ever asked you, G. So, leather seats, aircon, leather heated seats, aircon, built-in CD player, etc., with the controls here on the wheel. You know, what did you get more than the spec of this in any BMW or Audi, or what did you get more than this, Paul, that this car's got?
Well, driveway cred, I suppose.
Driveway cred, and with the BMW, of course.
Rear-wheel drive.
He's good.
Oh. Stephen Hendry.
Stephen Hendry.
He's the man I...
What an excellent
yeah.
choice. Although
we could have ladies as well. I was going
No, this is a man's car. There's no way that a woman would pay for something, because it's a booted saloon, mate. Women with money in this era would have been all about your VW Clipper, all about your Mercedes SLK. Yes, I am making statements based on people's gender.
With outdated language.
With outdated language, which in the 21st century can sometimes seem like the voice of a gammony, white, heterosexual, working class man from the northwest of England. But that's not what I am.
Well, not all of it, no.
No, I'm a modern man. We both are, aren't we, Paul? But the truth remains that this is a man's car. And the Ford Motor Company knew that men would buy this car rather than women. And so they built it with that in mind. I think a woman would find this no-nonsense interior a bit too dull and uninspiring. They'd want a bit more flair, wouldn't they?
That's interesting.
Yeah. We should move here and open one of these little tea shops.
You're always saying that as if you and I are in some sort of relationship that nobody knows about.
Like Mr. Oaks and Amos on Emmerdale Farm, when it was called Emmerdale Farm.
Not just Emmerdale.
Matt, that fellow who had a bowl haircut and a parka. Do you remember? He always wore that parka.
A bald haircut?
A bowl haircut.
Oh, bowl.
I.e. a haircut that was achieved by placing a bowl on his head.
Yeah. But who from the 90s would have had one? You didn't actually answer the question.
Right, so here's who would have had one of these from the 90s. Jimmy Nail.
Jimmy Nail?
Yeah, Jimmy Nail.
Oh, I know why you're saying that.
No, you don't.
I do, but it might be the incorrect reason.
Well,
you're thinking of Spender with his Cosworth. And once the Cosworth was too old.
Wow.
He decided that he should have one of these as a replacement.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
See?
Oh my
I do
God.
Listen sometimes.
I'm becoming redundant. You're like AI. As a consequence, I would say this. If you want a fast Ford, don't buy this car because it's not very fast. However, if you want a reasonably fast Ford, which can be bought at a reasonable price, and has not yet become subject to the tulip mania. Do you know what that was, Paul?
Something to do with Ford tax.
You know, like when the Dutch went a bit nuts and thought that a tulip bulb was worth as much as a fine house in the centre of Amsterdam, situated on a lovely canal, with well appointed, and they went, oh, you could have a tulip bulb.
Right.
Well, that's what people have done with Fords, isn't it? They've gone, oh yeah, that Ford is worth as much as a Aston Martin or a Ferrari?
I blame plumbers.
Can we please put those antiquated ideas about front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive behind us and concede that for the money right now, this is a really good buy, I think, Paul. You're getting a lot here. You're getting a car that people... It'll turn heads, this car, won't it? People go, hey, look, a Mondeo ST24. I mean, how... These were everywhere, weren't they, Mondeos? When do you see one? When do you see a Mark II Mondeo like this one?
You're
First
right,
generation
it would
Mark
turn
II.
heads. But I'm a bit concerned it would turn the kind of heads of the people that aren't looking at me.
I don't think so, because it's not like a Cosy. And the thing is, when you look at a Sierra Cosworth now, or an Escort Cosworth, and the insane prices that they sell for,
Yeah.
what people should then look at is how much brake horsepower those things had as standard. And you think, is that all? And the answer is, yeah. They were quick for their day, but they weren't that quick. I mean, compared to superbikes of the era,
It's the power and price of nostalgia. That's
exactly
really
what's going
So this
on.
car will go the same way.
It will, but
Yeah.
not just yet.
No,
Do you
no.
not think?
Not that far off though. These things have a habit of creeping up on you. That's why you hear so many people say, "Oh, I wish I'd gone to mine."
Yeah, I wish I'd gone to mine. Yeah, but if you had, you would have used it too much and it would have worn out.
Yeah.
This is not a BMW. It's not a Mercedes. It's
Those wear out as well. No.
Do you think?
In a different way, yeah. There are very few cars you could buy as a proper classic and just use it every day.
This is it.
No, I mean,
We're in it now.
Use it every day and it not wear out.
I look like Van Morrison. Look at me. I do. These are the sort of glasses he'd wear. Will you stop driving so fast? What are you doing?
I'm not. I'm just.
You maniac.
I am not a maniac. I'm a good boy. And this, it's got a nice growl to it, I think.
No, it hasn't. It's
does.
incredibly muted, the engine sound.
It's
because
muted.
I don't think they were aiming for the boy racer crowd with this car, Ford.
I think they were a little.
They were going for the family man
who still likes
needs
to do some boy racing.
who needs back seats, you know, because he's reproduced himself for reasons reasons that may not be apparent to the rest of us, but he has. What's quite surprising to me is how claustrophobic this interior feels. But I say claustrophobic like it's a bad thing. Let's use a different word, cosy.
Yeah, cosy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is quite narrow, isn't it?
There's not that much room in here, is there?
Not really.
But
no.
I don't mind that in a way.
There's more room in the newer one, as of course we've already discussed.
The newer one was significantly bigger inside.
Yeah. Well,
This one has a redesigned interior, but they didn't change the exterior dimensions of the car. They changed the back lights and stuff like that.
Did you not notice it's got a demister for the screen? The windscreen.
I didn't notice that.
I reckon we should use it.
There are only really two kinds of cars when it comes to design. A differentiation. Let's do that. Shall we do that, Paul?
Yes.
Between design and engineering. The engineering of a car, the distance between the wheels, the method of propelling it via whichever arrangement the manufacturer has deemed fit. That's engineering. Design is how it ends up looking. And there are only two kinds of cars when it comes to looks. Cars that are designed specifically to appeal to a certain demographic within the car buying community. I'm going to use that word that people use wrongly because everybody uses it wrongly, and I'm going to use it wrongly. There's no such thing as a car buying community. There's no cohesion, there's no consensus. Some people pay a lot of attention to cars. Some people pay a minimal amount of attention to cars. Like Paul. Sorry mate, that was wrong.
I'm not even going to answer that.
Yeah, and a little harsh. What I'm saying is, when the Mondeo arrived in 1993, codenamed CDW27, because it was between a C and a D segment car in terms of its size and interior space. It was a world car, which is why there's the W there, and it was the 27 for reasons that nobody knows. Well, I've looked and I couldn't find anybody that could agree on it. The Mondeo was designed, here's my point, you knew I'd get to it eventually, didn't you, Wookie? Here's my point.
I did.
Is that a bird scarer?
Yeah.
If you hadn't noticed, we're on a farm, which is why the car is a bit mucky, and so am I. So when the Mondeo came out in 93, it was deliberately designed not to appeal to people, but not to upset them. Do you see the subtle difference there, Paul?
I do, yeah.
Some cars make you go, look at that. Like for me, say, a Lancia Delta Integrale, or a 3-litre Capri, or a Mini Cooper, an original Mini Cooper, a real one. I look at that and I think, oh, look at that, isn't it lovely? But that's entirely subjective. You might think, like him, that a Rover 400 is lovely. Yeah, some people did. They did.
So this is copying the Toyota Starlet idea?
No, what I'm saying here, Paul, is with this car, with the hot Mondeos, the ST200, the ST220, and the ST24, this one with a 2.5 litre Duratec V6 it was in this, wasn't it?
Yep.
170 or so brake horsepowers. What they had to do was take a car that had been designed as a world car. The Mondeo had to appeal equally to the man on the Clapham omnibus, the man on the Poughkeepsie highway in his Ford Telstar, or some bloke in Belgium who, you know, normally took a bus. Had this big mental spoiler, and I think it was a bit much. It was like, that Alpha, it'd sit there and it was like going, come on! You know, it was like, it's a family car, it's a Ford, calm down.
It gets a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, it was a bit too much. This is quite subtle. Let's have a look in the boot, and here's what I really like, Paul. I love this. There's a key for the boot. You do that, and that opens. Wow, look at that.
I wasn't expecting you to do that.
Right.
You do reckon?
How many people got into raves in the 90s in the exact same position that I'm in now? When you rocked up in your car in a field like this in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in England, yeah, to have it large, and they went, how many of you are you? And you said, just me, and there were 2 people. The best thing was if you could persuade a female type person that this was the best way to get in if you wanted to try it on with them. This is a really nice, good way to meet people. Ah, don't do that! No.
The last thing you want is to be locked in the boot on a farm, isn't it?
Right, now that we're on this bumpy, twisty B-road, snaking across the flatlands of Lancashire's market gardening area, which if you can see it out this window, the blower on the aircon and heater isn't working, unfortunately. So we keep misting up. Woof.
He was going for it.
Woof.
Thank
yeah.
you. She.
Well, she like just went for it big time.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was not a wise thing to do.
Well, she might be a local, and that's how you do.
She should have been wary of an area where it was impossible for 2 cars to pass each other safely. Like I was, Paul.
Like you almost wasn't, because you're not familiar with the area.
I think that in
extra care.
Yeah,
That's what you have to do.
I really like this car. Are we in a post-banter world, Paul?
Yes, we are.
I think that there's a lot of people saying you're not allowed to say this, that and the other while at the same time saying it.
That's true, yeah. But the thing is, I mean, as much as I'd like to be able to say what I like, I also like the idea of having to find a new way around things.
You blame plumbers?
Yeah.
Why, did they get paid too much and then they thought, I'm going to spend that on a Sierra Cosworth?
Well, anyone in that kind of trade that do get themselves paid very well, and the likes of you and me end up thinking, why do we actually bother learning things? I'm not going to put that bit in either.
There's too much laughing in this. Right, which way do we go now?
The Alfa Romeo badge.
You know that there's a snake eating a baby on the Alfa Romeo. Did you know that?
Yeah,
the snake is devouring the child. It's not good. They're not playing. It's not like the day the snake came to tea. It's the day that I was the snake's tea. And that's on a car badge. So I'm saying, is the eagle and child a positive thing? Is the eagle taking the child to a place of safety? Is it guarding the child? Or is it, more likely, eating the child? In which case, that's probably not the sort of thing that I would want to call my pub. Bird eats baby.
Have you ever thought of a name for a pub if you had one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on, what is it?
My favourite pub name is the Spatula and Bergamo in...
That's a good name.
In Cheshire.
Yep.
It's Noddy Holder from Slade's local.
Is it?
Yeah. Baby, baby, baby!
You're definitely going to overload the microphone doing that. Imagine if Noddy Holder was part of Big in the 90s. I'd have to delete half of the footage.
He was big in the 70s.
I know. That's what I mean. It's just as well he wasn't big in the 90s.
I've seen him in that pub. It's not called the Spatula and Bergamo, but that's what I call it. It's called the Specimen.
The Specimen?
Yeah, and Bergamo. It's named after two racehorses, I found out. Because I thought, what an unusual name. I like the fact that in the northwest of England, we've got both the shortest pub name and the longest pub name. One of the pubs is called like Y or X or something like that, and the other one's called something like, don't quote me, the 21st Cheshire Volunteer Militia blah 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 Volunteer Force. Arms. Right, so what the Wookiee thought then was that it'd be quite funny if he locked Berry in the boot. But what if the key had broke or something had broke? Now, this car's got a few things on it that aren't working, and it did make me worry a little bit. I like this. I love this colour. We don't know what it's called. It's a great colour. What would you call this colour?
I'd call it
chalk blue. I'm calling it.
Chalk.
Have you got
chalk?
If you got one of those packets of chalk back in the day, the blue would have been this blue. I love it. It's great. And do you know what? Cars are never this sort of colour these days, are they? They're always bloody monochrome, like white, black, or worse of all, grey.
Colour's coming back, Steve.
Good, because it's great. I really like the colour. I like the fact it's only got one tailpipe, even though it's got a V6. It's not got four tailpipes. It's just got one. The Ford Mondeo. Let's have a look. Do you want to look at the engine? Do you want to see it? We might as well, yeah?
Might as well.
I like that grille as well. I think that's the gear grille. Because, of course, the gear in this would have had lovely leather seats and aircon and cruise and all the other stuff that you would have expected in a car like this back in the day. I found it. You wouldn't think it'd be so tricky to open the bonnet on cars. But the way of opening a car bonnet, it's never been standardised, has it? It's always different, isn't it, Paul?
It is, yeah.
And people must look at us two, particularly you, and think, idiots. They can't even open a car bonnet.
Well, it's not me trying.
It's always different. No struts, they didn't think.
No struts attached.
No struts attached. Duratec 2.5 litre V6 24 valve double overhead cam. In this world car. It has air conditioning. It tells us that here. Everything's where you'd expect to find it. Not a particularly powerful unit. 160 odd brake horsepowers.
176.
Really? And front wheel drive. You could get a 4x4 Mondeo, couldn't you? I mean, this is a time when Ford and Vauxhall, General Motors, Opel, whatever you want to call them, they just shadowed each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
If one of them did something, the other matched it, or the other tried to just make it slightly better. And I would imagine at the time, when we think about the competition for this Ford Mondeo ST24 with a 2.5 litre V6 engine, front wheel drive, room for 4. You could get it as a, could you get the ST24 as a hatchback? I'm not sure you could.
I'm not even sure.
Obviously, you could get the Mondeo as an estate, you could get it as a hatch, you could get it as
the
a
ST24
saloon. But do you know what? I think, Paul, at heart, I am a 90s man. And I fucking love a saloon car with a boot. And I don't think that for this time, they come much better than a Ford Mondeo ST24. And I say this to you, and I would imagine the Wookiee would agree with me. Buy one now before the price goes absolutely fucking mental. You heard it here first on Big in the 90s.
Okay.
Do you not think, seriously though?
Yeah, no I do.
Yeah?
Would you prefer this to the Vectra?
Yes.
The Vectra SRI 2.6?
Yes, I would. Although, if somebody's there and they have an SRI Vectra that they'd like us to have a doing, because we are not men who eschew the Vectra or denigrate the Vectra unnecessarily, because we might have had some sort of deal with somebody that might make us want to say bad things about the Vauxhall Vectra. Because that's not the sort of men we are. Well, will it work like these? No, let's not be mean to this car.
As long as it works better than that one, then yeah, we should be all right.
Yeah, we should be all right.
And we'll find after our lovely drive around in this particular motor that now we can see where we're going.
The ride's set up for comfort rather than
seeing where you're going.
Any sort of sportiness, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it does feel quite firm, but it's quite. It's not fast, as you say, but it's got a good bit of low down grunt.
Yeah, but what's fast? What's fast these days?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what's fast. A Porsche Taycan.
Yeah.
A Porsche Taycan Turbo, which hasn't got a turbo. Yes, Porsche added that because it is that German joke. We call it a turbo, but it does not have an ICE engine. No, it is fully electric. 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
Under 2?
Yeah, 1.9.
Sure?
Yes, mate. Yes, I'm sure. I've looked it up. Road and Track, the esteemed American motoring publication, has got the Taycan S down as 1.9 seconds 0 to 60. That's what fast is now in 2024.
Yeah,
but this was quick.
That's not far off dragster fast, is it?
No, that's like you're strapped into something wearing a Nomex suit and like those little suede booties, and you know you're waiting for the Christmas tree to light up before you put your foot down. 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, and the Taycan's not even a 2-seater car. It's like it's a saloon. It's a sedan.
Sedan.
Uh-oh.
What?
More dog walkers. What kind of dog's that? Is it a big scary one or a country dog? You know, like the sort of dogs that people in the country get.
Boxer.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's still odd to see like a dog boxer with a tail, isn't it?
It is, yeah. If you had a boxer, would you keep its tail? Or would you dock it because that's what it's supposed to look like?
What, that's like saying, you know, would I get my wife to wear a whalebone corset so that she could affect the waspish waist of a Victorian woman?
Exactly like that, yeah. I mean, if your wife was your possession, like a dog might be, would you, in effect, cut her tail off?
Do you know what? You make an interesting point. In the 90s, you would never see a boxer dog without a dog tail.
Yeah.
But the question was asked.
Is it nice?
Why are we doing this? Just go here. Why are we doing this? And the answer was fashion.
Yeah.
And people said, well, maybe we shouldn't mutilate our pets for fashion reasons.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a country type back in the day, and I know that the reason that dogs' tails were docked was because they had to go into undergrowth when they were involved in hunting activities. However, I don't think that most people in the 1990s were buying a boxer dog to accompany them on a hunt. Do you, Paul?
No.
So stop chopping dogs' tails off for no reason other than fashion.